Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Open Book. I am Billy Price, co-founder of BILLY Footwear, and we have a fantastic guest joining us today. One of the things I love about our business is just the opportunities we have had to collaborate with such amazing nonprofit organizations. And today we have a board member from the Spina Bifida Advocates of Washington State. She is a loving mom, a loving wife. On screen sharing it with me today is Miss Whitney Stohr. Hello, Whitney.
Hi.
Well, thank you so much for your time today, and I'm really excited for our conversation.
Me too. Sorry.
Just like that, I stepped on you. Sorry about that.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Thank you for inviting me. I'm happy to be here.
So, as I mentioned, to the audience out there, Whitney's with the Spina Bifida Advocates of Washington State, and so Whitney, when it comes to Spina Bifida, growing up, I'm a wheelchair user, but not because of Spina Bifida, and I really don't have a full understanding of what Spina Bifida is and how it affects the body. So I was hoping we could start a conversation there.
Yes. Growing up, I had no idea what Spina Bifida was. I did not know what it was until about 3.5 years ago. So Spina Bifida, it's a condition that develops in the very first weeks of a pregnancy. I guess the easiest way to describe it, and somebody described it to me this way as a non-medical person, like way back at the beginning of my diagnosis, and it just really resonated with me, is that it means split spine. So basically when a fetus is developing, the spine is supposed to zip up like a zipper. But with Spina Bifida, part of that remains open. And so there's an opening in the spine that there's different types of Spina Bifida, but in the most severe form, a lot of the nerves in the spine kind of push through that hole, and it can be open, it can be closed with skin covering it, but basically there is some nerve damage. And so after a child is born, surgeons go in and they repair the spine. And because of the spinal damage, a lot of kids with Spina Bifida and adults as they grow older use mobility devices, either orthotics, AFOs of some sort, arm crutches, aids, wheelchairs. A lot of people with Spina Bifida end up at some point in their life being wheelchair users. And so there are some other conditions that develop with it. So because of the spinal defect, part of the spinal column is pulled down through that opening in the spine. And as a result, most people, a large percentage of people with Spina Bifida, end up developing what's called Arnold-Chiari type 2 malformation. And basically the back part of the brain is pulled down into the base of the neck, and it forms a blockage like a dam. And so it prevents a lot of the fluid that's naturally in all of our head from draining like it should. And so it develops into hydrocephalus, which a lot of people know as water on the brain. And so many people, when they're babies, when they're first born with Spina Bifida, they end up getting their spinal closure surgery. And then they also get a device put into their brain through brain surgery that's called a shunt. And it just helps drain some of that fluid. And so by the time they're born, or a few days after they're born, a lot of these babies have already undergone 2 major surgeries, a major spinal surgery, as well as a brain surgery. And that was the case with my son, Malachi. He just turned 3 yesterday. When I first learned of Spina Bifida, I was about halfway through my pregnancy. I had just finished my 2nd trimester ultrasound. We found out we were having a boy. We had a name. We were very excited. And my blood work came back a little abnormal. And so they sent me to all of these specialty doctors, and we got the diagnosis of Spina Bifida. And so we live in Washington State, and we were sent to Seattle Children's Hospital, where we finished up the pregnancy with care through their specialty doctors for Malachi's care, and through the University of Washington for my care. And so Malachi ended up going through both those surgeries. He had several other surgeries related to his condition. And he spent over 14 months of his first 2 years in the hospital. But through that all, I learned a lot about spina bifida, a lot about the medical world, a lot about children's hospitals, and really developed a network and came to know all about like my local spina bifida organization, the National Spina Bifida Association, and just started meeting parents and networking, and we built a community because of that.
Wow, that I mean, there's so much there that we can unpack. I mean, so I'm thinking about, so before we really start talking about the organization, I was hoping we could back up just a tad. When you're in the hospital and you're going in for your ultrasound, to just kind of check on things going on, and then all of a sudden you get notification that something may be different. Can you talk about, because I know, I'm sure there's a lot of other families out there that may be having the same experience and this question of unknown. I mean, when you receive that type of information, I mean, how do you process that? I mean, what's going through your mind? I mean, it's got to be a tremendous amount of emotion attached.
There is. When you find out you're pregnant, you know that there's always those diagnoses you can receive. Like, things can always happen. You realize that, but it's always kind of in the back of your brain. Well, it's not going to happen to my pregnancy, right? It's not going to happen to my family. And then it does. And it just derails you a bit. And I think depending on who it is that gives you the diagnosis, how they present it, what their bedside manner is, really shapes how you proceed as well. We were really lucky to have a team give us the diagnosis in a positive way. I mean, they were very honest about the diagnosis and the impacts and the lifelong challenges. But I mean, ultimately, it was presented in a, you can do this, your baby can do this, we will be here to help you type of manner. And I think that really made a huge difference for us. And, I think people deal with this news in such different ways. And there's no real one size fits all, but I think that it's really helpful to reach out where you can and find people that have been there and people that have that knowledge and can show you what happened to their life, and where their family is now. And I think that kind of answers some of those hypothetical questions, because for a lot of women, when you get this diagnosis, they're still pregnant. Like, they still have half of their pregnancy to go. And there's a lot of unknowing there, and that lack of knowing, I think that's really the hard part, is just waiting.
Right. Well, you also touched on, I mean, even after, after the baby's born, you spent so much time in the hospital, but it sounds like it was an incredible opportunity to get a better understanding of what was happening, but also networking. And it just seems like that type of networking is kind of rolled up into the nonprofit that you're associated with.
It is, I think it's also my personality. I am very extroverted. Like, when I first got my son's diagnosis, my like immediate questions were like, okay, who do I need to contact? What organizations are a big player in this? Like, where am I going to get the information? And I think that continued while I was staying in the hospital with Malachi. Every time the social workers would come by and ask what I needed, I said, what I need is for you to provide information about organizations. Are there advocacy programs going on? How can I get involved to make, these challenges easier? Or, how can I make sure that families have access to medical equipment? Like, what groups can I get involved with to at least feel like I'm doing something, And I think that part of that was like my own coping mechanism and dealing with it, to feel like I was actually like doing something, making the world better in a little way, And but I think that's how I ended up getting connected with a bunch of people and building that kind of community around me. Was I asked those questions and I reached out. And so I am a board member with the Spina Bifida Advocates of Washington State. It is a organization of kids with spina bifida, adults with spina bifida, and their parents, families, caregivers, pretty much the entire community of people that are in some way connected to spina bifida. It's people from all over our state. We are obviously virtual now, but when we are in person, we hold community events. We plan opportunities for families to get together, to network, of people of all ages and kids, to establish a peer group and a community of people that understand, and they can work together to get involved in the community and to advocate and to do all those things. And we provide educational opportunities, outreach. So all these really great things with the goal of building up this network within our state, which, this is Washington State. But there are chapters in a lot of other states. There are some regional chapters. And then there's the National Spina Bifida Association, and there's actually an international federation for spina bifida and hydrocephalus. And I know that some other nations have their own chapters. I believe Canada does, and I really think the UK does as well. Okay. But I think just getting involved where we're at, humans are social creatures. We want to be connected, and I think that it's really good to connect to people that are going the same path as you.
Yeah. Well, I certainly speak. So first off, before I say what I'm about to say, can you give me the website to your to the Spina Bifida chapter in Washington State so people can find you?
Yeah. So the organization's name is Spina Bifida Advocates of Washington State. You can totally Google that. But it is, for short, the acronym is SBAWS, so SBAWS.org.
Awesome. And then how do we find you on social?
On social, I run an Instagram account for my son's journey and kind of my journey as a parent, and just kind of the whole mixed up perspective. So I have my personal Instagram is at roland.w.spinabifida. And then you can also find Spina Bifida Advocates of Washington State at SBAWS Rolls is the handle there. And again, there is the National Association. So it's the Spina Bifida Association, SBA. But they are also online. They do a lot of great events and tons of webinars, and they just started an adaptive fitness type webinar.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Well, I know that, kind of circling back on what you just said about the social gatherings stuff. I know that I had the honor of attending one of your, I think it was a walk and roll or something like that. And it was so much fun. And just like being able to be with the community out there and having these conversations, and everyone was just so supportive and out there just really celebrating life and just being able to share these stories to be able to, kind of through the weaknesses, we all become stronger. And, but that said, the backbone of having just the ability to provide information, and just to be able to answer those questions of, just to be able to provide tools to be able to better equip ourselves for the types of questions that pop into our head. I just really appreciate everything you guys are doing. It's such a needed value, or a needed service that needs to be out there. And it's just awesome. You guys are a light that people can kind of draw to find those answers.
I hope so. We're really trying to be that. We're a relatively small organization still here in the state, and we're always looking for families and people with spina bifida to be more involved. We would love to have you join us. And really, it's an opportunity for community leadership. We're very open, and if somebody wants to come in and they have their own set of skills and ideas, like, we definitely welcome that. So anybody that wants to be involved can definitely get involved.
Nice. Well, it seems like sharing those ideas is definitely one of the things, I think, how we landed on your radar. I think someone shared someone, and then everybody found out about Billy Shoes. Yes.
Billy Shoes is the talk of our community in terms of footwear. A lot of our kids wear orthotics, AFOs, and a lot of them, have paralysis. And so just the design of Billy shoes really is beneficial for that. I know just with my son, like finding shoes was challenging. And he's still young. And so he was in infant shoes. And even that was really hard because, you're afraid that the shoe's not going to fit right, that you're going to hurt him as you're like putting the shoe on and off. And so I was waiting and waiting and waiting for his feet to grow big enough to be a toddler size. And as soon as they did, we got our first pair of Billy shoes. So we were very excited, and we had been waiting. And so now he has 5 pairs now.
Oh my gosh.
he just started fitting into toddler size like a month ago. And I'm like, nope, we're doing this. And so he has 5 different pairs.
Oh, wow. That is awesome. I didn't know that part of the story.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Thank you for that. Well, Whitney, I got to say, I mean, this is such a fantastic conversation. There's so many different things that we can talk about. I guess I would just encourage everyone out there that's listening in to be able to, check out their website and just start that network process. But Whitney, before I kind of sign us off here, I mean, I just want to give you another opportunity to really share whatever's on your heart. I mean, it could be something we've already talked about or something new. It could be just maybe some words of wisdom to those families, but really the mic is yours.
I think there's 2 things. I think that, let's see if I can remember the 2 things as I'm talking. But it's about building community. I mean, wherever you are, we have this amazing gift of the internet and of social media. And for as bad of a rap as social media can get at times, for our family, it's been a godsend because it has allowed us to build a community with families and kids and adults with disabilities that we would never have had the opportunity to have before. And we have learned so much, and we share and we talk, and they've become really good friends of ours. And we've never actually met them in person because they live across the country. And I think that is just such an important thing is to build that community, because when you do have a child with a disability, your world can feel like it shrinks. You can feel isolated, like you can feel like your experience of parenting is different than other people, and it is in a lot of ways. And so I think it is important to find your people and find those people that understand. And I think that no matter where you're at in the journey, I think that it is worth connecting and finding avenues to do that. So I think that's really important. And the other thing I did remember is leadership. Whether you're a parent or a spouse or the child or the person living with a disability, it's a unique experience. It gives you a perspective that people that are not connected or don't have disabilities wouldn't see necessarily. I mean, I'm not disabled myself, but as the parent of a child with a disability, I have, I see how hard it is to help him maneuver his wheelchair, or to maneuver our adaptive equipment down the street, or to try to find a park where I can take my son who is a wheelchair user, So it's a different perspective, and it's so important that the people that are making decisions understand that perspective and hear that perspective. And so whether you're getting involved with a community organization like the Spina Bifida Advocates, like the National Spina Bifida Association, or whether you're getting involved with your local PTA or serving on a local school district organization, or being a committee member with your local government, get involved. Find a way to get involved. Contact your local representatives. Stay informed about local issues and reach out, because if you don't share your voice, if you don't share your perspective, no one knows. They have no reason to know. And then they can't make an informed decision that's going to take into account our needs. And so I that's one thing I always tell parents. I know it can be really uncomfortable, especially if it's not something you're used to, but the more you do it, the more comfortable you get. And it really is one of the most important things you can do, not just for your kid or your spouse or, yourself, but for those that are coming up behind you.
Wow. I mean, that was so eloquently said and so empowering. I mean, that's really the thing. It's a matter of we be the change, right? It's not a matter of you need to do this. It's like, let's do this. Let's jump in together and let's do this, which touches on the community side of it, but also collectively voicing like these concerns to generate an inclusive environment that everyone can enjoy. And it's like, and we make the difference. Wow. Very, very strong words of wisdom. Thank you very much for that.
Thanks.
Everyone, this was another episode for Open Book. Thank you, Whitney, for your time today. Everyone else, we will have another Open Book next week. Until then, take care.